During a stormy night, Muzi walks through dark corridors and uses magic to break a locked door. Just then, the power cuts off throughout the building, and a young newbie named Koji is ordered to check the circuit on the rooftop. Despite his arguments, his senior, Lee, insists. Reluctantly doing as told, he makes his way up, but sees the door forcibly opened. Thinking there's a thief, he hastily opens it, demanding to know who's there. Outside, Muzi levitates in the air and is shocked to see a civilian appear. Distracted, a huge lightning bolt hits her, and she falls unconscious. He lets his hesitation go and provides emergency CPR. In the girl's dreams, she remembers her tribulation being interrupted and sees her mother fade into nothing. She wakes up and slaps the young man away, seeing his lips on hers. Shaking, Koji insists that she should be grateful, as he gave up his first kiss to save her life. However, the lady just slaps him again, insulted by his selfish attitude. She was careless, but it was fortunate that he didn't witness the heavenly tribulation. As the cultivation world is ruled by the law of the jungle, any mortal involved will die. Just then, her blue aura turned red, and she fell to her knees, not knowing why her cultivation was lowering to previous levels. Meanwhile, the objects float around the young man, as a faint aura glows around him. The next morning, his condition unexpectedly improved overall. He sees Muzi, ignoring a dashing man who gives her a bouquet. Persevering, he says he booked a cinema for a certain movie. While interested, she declines as she has to attend her classes. An eerie eye appears in the air, talking about a new cultivator and testing their powers. Suddenly, a billboard high up topples over and hurtles to the ground. Realizing that it's about to hit a girl, Koji runs to somehow save her. Just then, a burst of energy shoots out of his hand, pushing the billboard away and forcing him to pass out. He later wakes up in an unfamiliar room, bound to a bed with Muzi in front of him. She suddenly gets on top of him, trying her best to seduce the young man. Understanding that it isn't working, she pulls away and reminds him about the billboard incident, explaining that he used her power to save her. Seeing him confused, she reveals that she's a cultivator and slices the headboard in half when he calls her crazy. Now that he knows her secrets, he's left with two options: die under her black sky, or cultivate with her and become immortal together. Seeing the city at night from so high up, Koji is mesmerized by its beauty. However, it's just a fraction of reality. Well aware that there are people suffering in the dark, he insists that they can use their power to help those in need. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. They train on the rooftop, where Muzi tells him to jump over the edge, as human potential is usually unlocked. In the face of danger and desperation to survive, he'll be reported as an unfortunate case if he fails. But it won't make much difference, as his naivety will likely have him die, from other cultivators anyway. Pushed over, he thinks about the power that saved the girl earlier. However, he continues falling, not knowing what to do exactly. Realizing that he's about to die, his eyes go blank. Suddenly, he sees Muzi swooping down toward him with a smile. She says it's their life or death moment. Understanding, he hugs her tight, and wings of energy sprout from his back, allowing them to land gently and fly back up. Carrying her under the moonlight, he confidently jokes about his new power. However, she suddenly gets angry, sprouts her own wings, and drives him back to the rooftop. He lectures him about the modern cultivation world, which is like a forest lacking resources, filled with starving beasts, hiding to maintain balance. If someone were to light up the entire forest, they wouldn't gather for warmth, but would kill the idiot before they did something, even more foolish than wasting scarce resources. The next time he exposes himself, others will undoubtedly come for his life. In an alternate space, an old man feels an erratic spirit energy and orders a girl named Ruri to find the owner of the fluctuating power and kill them if they're weak enough. The next day, Muzi's admirer sees her with Koji and is shocked to hear that they just returned from the hotel. Incredulous, he grabs him by the collar, but she immediately slaps him away. At a cafe, she sees him typing on an old phone and scolds him, as it doesn't even have a modern messaging app. Annoyed, she hands him her phone, telling him to use it moving forward. Later, he recalls how she said that weak cultivators can only hide from other practitioners to survive. Considering this, he asks why she didn't kill him. She explains that he somehow absorbed a large portion of her spirit energy, and she'd lose it if he died. Koji flusters her by suddenly asking to cultivate tonight. Her reaction makes him take it back, but is surprised when she holds his hand, saying they can start with that. While Muzi described the cultivation world as ruthless and cold, he couldn't help but feel warmth from the young lady. At night, Ruri mercilessly takes someone's life, enjoying the taste of blood. Ruri arrives in the middle of the city, locating where the spirit energy first appeared. As she expects the source to be a man, she'll use a special method, relying on enticing them with attractive photos of herself. She meets several men, but none of them have the energy she's looking for, and are only filled with indecent desires. Sending them all away, her frustration overflows, as her target still hasn't fallen for her. Questioning his preference, she decides to change her approach. In his room, Koji plans a training session with Muzi. Meanwhile, he sees Lee, giggling over a chat with a young boy as they plan to meet at the park. Looking at him, the newbie recalls a trend of organ harvesting crimes. As if entranced, the older man hazily trudges toward the park. However, Ruri immediately punches him away, as she sees his lack of spirit energy. As he's sent away, Koji catches his senior, exposing his wings to the cultivator. However, Lee clings onto him, his fantasies running wild. The girl undoes her spell and disappears, leaving both men confused. Despite this, the older man acts coy, still feeling attracted to his junior, who runs away in fear. Just then, a bolt of energy strikes through his chest, as Ruri uses her seductive abilities on him. Bewitched, he makes his way to the rooftop, repeating her name and how much he likes her. She unleashes spirit restrictions, stopping their spirit energy from leaking and blocking anyone from detecting them. Still under her spell, he gets on his knees and proposes, using beef skewers he roasted along the way. Disgusted, she sends him back and releases her spell, leaving him completely confused. Refusing to take pity on him, she conjures a blade of fire, ready to fight. Finally realizing that she's a cultivator who's come for his head, he surrenders all thoughts of pointless resistance. He sneakily distracts her and uses the moment to fly away. However, his skill level is far below hers, so she easily catches up and throws him back to the rooftop. Unfortunately for him, she grabbed onto his pants, tearing them away as she sent him flying. As she dashes to strike the pantless man down, Muzi arrives with a blast of lightning. She mocks his embarrassing appearance, telling him to explain after putting his clothes on. Ruri finds the scene amusing, mocking her, and recalling how her boyfriend proposed to her just moments ago. Not allowing him to say anything, she tosses him a hard keyboard, telling him to kneel in penance while she handles the mistress. Koji is an ordinary security guard, who's been kneeling on a keyboard for 10 minutes, waiting for two girls to finish fighting over him. Hearing the inaccurate description, they knock him out in annoyance. Muzi speaks to him telepathically, scolding him for exposing such low-level cultivation in public. She recalls their first training session, where she explained the different levels of cultivation and the vast gaps between them. Unless he has a weapon to fill that disparity, his death will be inevitable. Ruri guesses what they're doing and rushes in to attack. From this, Muzi knows that she can't defeat her, even if they work together. Their blades clash, and they proceed to launch elemental spells at each other. As a chance opens up, she tells Koji to run away for now. The headhunter mocks their bond, sending her opponent to the sky and slamming her back into the ground, fueled by disgust over their relationship. She whips the girl with her flames and sends a huge blast her way. Muzi blocks it for a while, but knows that she can't hold out for too long. While running away, Koji stops, finally understanding that the match was hopeless from the start. Meanwhile, the old man from before finishes consuming others and gets excited at the thought of eating his disciple next, aiming to break through the last stage of his cultivation. Ruri's spell overpowers her opponent's defenses. She tells her to hate the boy, as he abandoned her for his own life. Just then, Koji suddenly appears, sacrificing himself to block her deciding strike. With a hole in his chest, he falls, saying he won't allow Muzi to die alone. She remembers her mother, who told her to marry a man who'd comfort her and stand up for her. Repulsed, Ruri kicks them both away, and the young man loses consciousness from his injuries. He suddenly finds himself in an astral plane, where he sees Juan, a regal man with long white hair. Saying he must be lost and wandering between life and death, he offers to give him a ride. To his surprise, Koji recognizes his sword, Dark Sky. Considering his energy, he guesses that the young man must be a cultivation partner of his offspring. With this, he decides to grace a special fortune, and tosses him 3 layers of Hun Tian beads. They have something inside that might be helpful. As he's running out of spirit energy, Zhuan says he can only deal with the current danger he's facing, and warns the boy that he'll only last a minute when he returns outside. On the rooftop, a huge burst of energy tears through the sky, pushing Ruri out of the way. Koji emerges, carrying Muzi while enveloped in newfound power. Ruri is blown away by Koji's surging spirit energy. His cultivation levels are continuously rising, and soon surpasses her own by a large margin, making her wonder if he's even stronger than her master. Driven to a corner, she desperately tries to attack, but a single word is enough to shatter her magic weapon. Losing hope as the winged cultivator walks to her, she gives up and tosses herself over the rooftop, wanting to choose how she dies. To her surprise, he saves her with a smile, saying there's no need to die in a fight. She pushes him back and walks away, questioning what he knows about the world. With that settled, Muzi asks Koji about the power, but he covers it up with a ridiculous explanation. Unwilling to accept, she drags him into a hotel room, demanding to know how his power increased. As he continues to spout nonsense, she walks forward, threatening to get violent. He finds himself bound to the bed frame, where Muzi kisses his lips, calling it a co-cultivation method of her family, allowing their yin and yang to reconcile. Their spirit powers fuse into a warm feeling, exposing everything to one another. He wakes up in a wide field and sees a locked door standing tall. Touching the lock, light bursts forth, seemingly draining life from the environment. A younger Muzi tugs on his shirt, and they fall into a void that opens beneath their feet. Meanwhile, the real Muzi is floating across his consciousness, looking for the powerful spirit's origin. Farther in, she finds a blinding orb of pure power, pulsing like a living magic weapon. Suddenly she's crying on the ground, and a red-haired man behind her unsheathes his sword and swipes. Koji is in a burning house, and speeds out as he hears a cry for help. He sees the man, his sword drenched in blood, as he demands to know where the black sky is. He wakes up in his room, understanding that it's Muzi's past. Hugging her tight, he promises to protect her. She explains how the man wiped her entire family out that night, and that he will eventually come for the sword in her hand. On that day, she vows to slay him. That said, she acknowledges that his power has reached the highest levels. Facing him now, even together, would mean death for them. As he promises to be with her nonetheless, she kisses him as a reward. He tries to talk about his spirit power, but she says she doesn't need to know anymore. When she felt the source within him, she didn't see his secret, but felt a familiar warmth. She asks him to go, showing a suggestive expression when he refuses. Understanding what she means, he runs out, reasoning that he has to patrol. On his way back, he panics, realizing that he lost the Hun Tian beads. Reaching his room, he's shocked to find a familiar girl on his bed. It's Ruri, barely wearing clothes. Koji is shocked to find Ruri on his bed, saying she's been waiting for him. Acting coy, despite her appearance, she says she has nowhere to go and asks to sleep in his bed. Consequently, Lee offers his own bed, prompting him run away and settle for the floor. The next morning, a long queue of hopeful men gathers in front of Ruri, all wanting to be her suitor. Just then, Muzi's admirer appears with his butler, scurrying to the ground to get a ring she dropped. He uses it as an excuse to hit on her, but the two girls throw him around, neither wanting to be involved in his life. For them, the only worthy person is Koji, who coincidentally arrives right then. They fight over him, wanting to take him for themselves. The young master falls in anger, vowing to make him suffer, no matter what it takes. The trio watches a romantic movie, but the girl's hands and eyes are still set on the young man. As a scary scene plays, Muzi acts afraid and clings onto him, prompting the other to pull harder. They try to kiss his cheek at the same time, but he dodges and causes them to kiss each other. It rains on the way home, and the two immediately pull at his jacket, tearing it in half and pushing him onto the cold and wet ground. Worried that Ruri's actions would cause misunderstandings, Koji bought a present as a peace offering for Muzi. However, his way is blocked by the young master Joe, who's gathered a bunch of thugs to break his entire body. They call him out while carrying bats, but allow him to run away after getting foolishly distracted. As he's escaping, the butler trips him, causing the precious gift to fall. Coincidentally, the two girls are also there. They immediately leapt into action, taking no time to knock them all out. They hurry to help the boy up, while the young master throws his hands up, complaining about his unfair life. Meanwhile, Koji finally gets the opportunity to hand Muzi his gift. She opens it and finds a ridiculous pair of chicken gloves. He laughs at her reaction, admitting that it's his first time buying a gift for a girl, and even offering to change it to something else. Despite the silly present, she turns around to hide a smile. On the other hand, Ruri turns away, hurt by the scene she just saw. Watching her from above is her old master, telling her not to disappoint. While delighted by the gift, they see Ruri nearby, walking away without looking back. Seeing her, Koji is reminded of himself from before, always alone. With Muzi's blessing, he runs to her and reaches his hand out, offering friendship. However, she slaps it away, calling him foolish and saying she would have killed them both if only he didn't power up. She insists that she befriended him, with the purpose of using his power as protection. Unoffended, he promises to protect her as much as he can, and tries to clear up the misunderstanding with Muzi. While she might see her as an arrogant and blustering woman, she's actually someone who carries a lot of grief and responsibility. As someone putting on a facade, he's the only one she relies on. That said, he wants to protect Ruri too. Confused, she runs away, and Muzi stops him from running after her. At the school, the old master appears in front of two students, scolding them for engaging in indecency and getting in the way of his cultivation. As punishment, their lives are drained mercilessly. With this, he's come closer to the next step, and Ruri, whom he's been cultivating for so long, will be the last step. In their space, she regretfully admits that she failed her mission and let him down, explaining how the target suddenly grew powerful. He forgives her, saying he'll be capable of killing them soon and reach the late stage of core formation. Struck by fear, she's ordered to keep them at bay and hide his existence. She flies away, knowing it'll be the end for her as well, if he reaches his goal. In a dark forest, Koji is shouting for Ruri, wondering where she is. Suddenly, the girl comes out of the thick bushes, which surprises the boy. He then asks why she called him in the middle of the night and dressed thinly. All of a sudden, she starts unbuttoning her shirt, which embarrasses the boy. He tells her he's loyal to Muzi and refuses to look at her. His rejection triggers her and unleashes her power, saying that betrayal happens all the time. Koji deflects her attack, and she starts to charge at him, swinging her fire sword in his direction. She slices the tree behind him, commenting that he can't even properly protect himself, and urges him to use his spirit power, or she'll kill him. However, he insists that he will never fight his friend, which seems to trigger her more and impale him with her sword. However, at the last minute, she withdraws her power and cries in his chest, asking why he wouldn't use his spirit energy on her. Koji answers that his power is meant to protect people who are important to him, and not harm them. For a moment, Ruri sees another person in him. Just then, Muzi appears and accuses Koji of cheating on her. Ruri tells them that even if she doesn't kill them, her master will. She then tells him that her master felt the release of his spirit energy and sent her there to eliminate him. Now she can't go back to her master because she purposely failed her mission, adding that he will soon reach the middle stage of core formation and will surely slay all of them. Meanwhile, the master is observing from his space temple, noting that his cultivation level is leveling so fast and that he only needs Koji and Muzi's blood to achieve the next level of his powers. Koji asks Ruri if she wants to go against her master, mentioning that it is against the moral code. However, Muzi comments that in the cultivation world, betrayal can happen. Ruri then tells them how she met her master. She used to live in a small village and live a normal life with her parents. However, other kids didn't like her, called her a monster, and threw rocks at her. She then retaliated and threw back the rocks at them, saying that compared to them, her friend wasn't stupid. The kids then ran away, and one of them vowed to make her pay for what she did. She then goes to a cave where a young human snake resides. The girl frowned for a while but smiled upon seeing her. Ruri then brought out a medicine for her friend and applied it to her back, saying that her wounds were slowly healing. She then handed out the medicine to her, mentioning that when she first found her friend, she thought she was already dead. She then gave her food made by her parents. They quietly enjoyed their day together inside the cave. Ruri wished that one day her friend could cultivate into human form after she recovered from her injuries. In that way, she would be able to talk to her and show everyone how great she was. At that time, she believed they would be friends forever. One day, a fortune teller came to their small village, and people were amazed by his presence. The old man insisted that he was not miraculous, and met them all because of fate. He offers to answer all of their questions in exchange for the warm welcome he received. Just then, the old man called for Ruri, who was just passing by, but she just scoffed at him and continued on her way. As she walked away, she could hear people advising the old man to ignore her, as she was a strange kid. However, the old man insisted on talking to her, saying that she had a special body and that she would have a life that everyone could only dream of. With this, all of the people's attention turned to her, and they criticized her for being a recluse and not having a single friend. As she turned away, she heard the old man's voice in her head, warning her that if she didn't stop seeing her monster friend, she would lose everything she had. However, young Ruri refused to believe the man's words, thinking that her friend wouldn't do her any harm. As she entered the cave, she didn't see her friend and looked for her. She then saw her village being engulfed in fire. Meanwhile, in the village, the snake monster was wreaking havoc and slaying everyone in her way. Ruri arrived at the village, frantically looking for her parents. Just then, she saw their lifeless bodies hugging each other. As she cried out, she saw the old man gasping for life, saying that the snake spirit had escaped into the forest. He eventually succumbed to his injuries, which made Ruri cry in misery, blaming herself for everything that happened. Enraged, she picked up a weapon and went to the cave, vowing to kill the snake spirit. Just then, a silver-haired man came out of the cave and prevented her from being reckless. He told her that on the night of the full moon, snake spirits are dangerous, and gave her a special weapon called Lee Fire to slay the snake. Ruri searched the forest for the snake spirit and found her injured on the ground. She raised her weapon against the monster who charged towards her. In fear, she stabbed the beast, who in turn applied medicine to her injuries, saying her name and calling her friend for the last time. Ruri cried and hugged her only friend tightly. Walking out of the forest, she saw the silver-haired man floating in the sky, thinking that he must be immortal. She then begged him to save her village. However, the man refused to do so, as resurrecting the dead is against heaven's will. He invited her to join his journey instead and be a cultivator, so her heart wouldn't feel pain anymore. A cultivator should have no feelings and should only devote her life to the spirit energy. Hearing this, Ruri immediately accepted the offer, calling the man her master. Since then, she has become a devout disciple. But one day she discovered that her master was using bloodthirsty fiend art to improve his cultivation level. By consuming other cultivators' blood, it can make her master more powerful. Since then, his demeanor has changed, and he is now eyeing her like a predator. Muzi deduces that if he consumes their blood, the master will achieve the level of late-stage core formation. Ruri urges the two to make a move before her master can attain the late-stage core formation and take their spirit energy by force. Threatened by this, Koji asks Muzi to run away to a faraway place. Muzi agrees and imagines a place where they can happily co-cultivate together. Annoyed, Ruri tells them that escaping is impossible, as her master can find them no matter what. Koji wonders if Muzi can give him all her spirit energy and defeat the master, adding that he'll be happy to exchange his life for her. Ruri intervenes and tries to talk some sense into Koji. She convinces him to work together so they can defeat her evil master, who has been coveting her spirit energy as well. She begs him, saying that she can't resign to death this easily. However, Muzi tells her that it's unlikely they defeat the master, but Ruri has other plans, assuring her that her master's fiend art has weaknesses, and that if they attack soon, there's a chance for them to win. Later, Koji and Muzi are inside a motel, and the latter reprimands the boy for thinking perversely and acting like a hero earlier. He tells her that his father hoped for him to become a hero, and this might be the chance to fulfill that dream. Eventually, Muzi agrees to fight, and mentions that when they co-cultivated last time, she saw a surge of white power inside him that felt the same as the energy of her family. Additionally, it is not the same spirit that he absorbed from her, as it is a greater power. In short, if he can use the new energy successfully, there's a chance to defeat Ruri's master. When asked how to use the energy, Muzi explains that, similar to a spirit power, he has to use his blood to form a contract with the spirit power to release it. However, she warns him that it will be dangerous to release a weapon spirit as they have their own consciousness, and there might be a chance that he will be taken over by it. Determined to win, he convinces her that they should release his spirit power and make something useful out of it. Since he already decided, Muzi wounds his hand and impales her sword into it, releasing his spirit. Just then, a woman appears and introduces herself as a spirit from a unique treasure. Muzi informs him that she can feel his high cultivation level. However, the spirit tells them that in order to use her power, he needs to be at the ascendant soul level. With his current level, he can only use her power for a short time. Muzi tells him it is bad news, as he won't be able to use 1% of its true strength. Later, as Muzi is sleeping, Koji is practicing how to use his power, but to no avail. As he's thinking about yesterday's events, Muzi's admirer Joe shows up and demands that he hand over the girl. He insists that if she can't have her heart, he must get her body at least. He then instructs his lackeys to attack Koji, and just in time, Muzi and Ruri appear to clash with the two. They also deduce that the two lackeys are weapon hunters who covet their spirit weapons. Muzi and Ruri attack, but the weapon hunters are able to neutralize their magic and bind them. The obsessive admirer rejoices, as he can take both tonight. Koji intervenes, telling him that he won't let anything happen to the girls. He then battles with the two weapon hunters, but gets easily downed by them. As he is about to be killed, his spirit shows up to protect him. He then orders the spirit to save Muzi and Ruri. As they get defeated, the two hunters apologize to the ladies and immediately leave after being forgiven. Meanwhile, the master is observing from a distance, commending his disciple for a job well done, as he's going to devour all of them to reach the late stage of core formation. Seeing the green-haired spirit for the first time, Joe has found a new woman to obsess over. His butler orders a dozen maidservants for him, some of whom immediately start massaging his back. Annoyed and sick of it, Muzi tells the young master that they aren't in a relationship and that he should stop targeting him, unless he wants a beating. He runs away pathetically, and the four are left to talk. Seeing her for the first time, Ruri questions the appearance of the new weapon spirit, unable to comprehend how he trained her so well in just one night. Unfortunately, he can't explain much, as Juan forbade him from telling anyone about their encounter. He acts foolish, saying it must have been a gift from the heavens. She asks for her name, hoping to understand the cultivation weapon from that, but she says she doesn't have one. Ruri suggests a demeaning name, but is immediately rejected. On the other hand, Koji suggests Ling match her identity. Since it's her master's idea, she easily accepts and thanks him. The group splits up to prepare themselves, and instructs the boy to do the same, as he's far too weak to partake in battle. While his cultivation level is high, he simply lacks combat capability. Eager to help, his spirit ushers him into another dimension, the world inside the Hun Tian beads. Seeing his amazement, she says there are countless miracles in the cultivation world. She used to be an intelligent weapon spirit, perfectly made by her original master. While her power is exceptional, only a strong master can release her full potential. There's a way for her to defeat the monster they're about to face, but doing so might lead to their permanent separation, as it requires sacrificing her as an explosive. He refuses to do so, and feels sad over how weak he is, despite his spirit energy being remarkably high. This is because he suddenly gained his energy from others, and did not spend time trying to understand its concepts. In other words, he has spirit energy he can't use. Having an idea, she starts to take his clothes off. He gives an overly dramatic response, and is snapped back to reality, as he's told to close his eyes, while she guides the spirit energy for him. She places her hands on his body, telling him to calm down and feel the circling spirit energy within. He's soon able to use his energy freely. With his fast cultivation, he'll be a skilled cultivator in just 5 to 10 years. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that much time. Another option is for her to manually circle his governor and conception vessels. It'll be a painful process, but he readily accepts it. Proceeding, a huge deluge of pain overflows in his body, but powers through, saying it's nothing compared to the pain and sadness of her companions. An ominous tree watches and creeps toward them. Koji defeats the evil tree using his newfound power. As he soars up in the sky, Ling congratulates him for learning how to use his spirit power. As he's curious about the tree spirit, she tells him that she doesn't have any idea either, and all she knows is that there are a lot more spirit energies there than in the outside world. Hearing this, he wonders why there are fewer spirits today than in ancient times. Just then, his phone rings, and he's surprised that there's a phone signal in the area. He answers the phone, and Muzi tells him that he needs to go back as they need to prepare. However, he was shocked when she brought him to an adult shop. She chastises him for his dirty mind and informs him that it is a covert cultivation shop. They enter the shop and are welcomed by the two enthusiastic employees, thinking that they'll shop for adult products. However, Muzi shows off her cultivation power and her gold card to let them know who they truly are. They let Muzi in to see their boss, but left out Koji and Ling. Muzi then gives Koji a spirit stone, which is the currency of the cultivation world. Thinking of swindling him, the store assistant in a bunny costume invites him to take a look at the magical treasures in their shop, which he easily accepts. As he takes a look for a magical weapon he can use, the assistant tours him around and offers him magical equipment for a higher price. However, he tries to save the money for other things. Refusing to let him go, she offers to play Gamblestone with him, offering to give him more chances for high-value things. She explains that Gamblestone is a kind of game that is played with jade and luck. He will choose from bet boxes made out of jade stones and has a chance to win a mystery magical treasure at a low price that may lead to sudden wealth. Enticed by the good offer, Koji expresses interest in taking the gamble. Meanwhile, Muzi meets the owner of the shop. She then expresses her desire to buy the most valuable magical treasure in the shop. As he leaves with his assistant to get the treasure, it is revealed that the treasure they have is less powerful than they advertised it to be. The head office ordered that all night branches need to be shut down in 3 days. He adds that magical treasures in their branches aren't important, but spirit stone magical treasures need to be surrendered. They aren't sure why the shop is being shut down, but they were informed that an important person is coming who is connected to the Lee family. Meanwhile, Koji chooses a treasure with the help of Ling and acquires a dragon dagger. The assistant is secretly rejoicing that the boy picked up a useless, rusted dagger for 50 spiritual stones. Inside the store, she happily informs her boss that she was able to sell a betting box for a high price. He commends her and asks what she unsealed. She then replies that it was a dagger called the Soul of Dragon Blood. Hearing this, the boss loses consciousness, as the dagger is a valuable magical treasure. Ruri reports to her master that she has failed her mission to kill the 2 cultivators. The master accuses her of colluding with the enemies, which she vehemently denies. He then reveals that he already knew their secret to killing him, and he attacked his disciple. Meanwhile, Ling explains that the dagger purchased by Koji contains a red dragon's soul sealed in it. It is said that a cultivator slew a red dragon when it wreaked havoc on the world and sealed its soul inside the dagger. She reveals that it was Zhuan who killed the dragon. He wonders what will happen if he releases the red dragon to attack the evil cultivator master. However, Ling points out that the dragon is a Yaoguai beast that is mostly hostile to humans, and she is afraid that it will cause more problems if they unseal it to use against their enemies. She suggests using the dagger as a magical weapon alone, imbuing it with his spirit energy, and seeing what happens. He tries it, and discovers that he can use the cloning technique. Just then, he hears Ruri's voice inside his head, informing him that her master has discovered their plan and is out to kill them. Knowing they will fight a dangerous man, Muzi gives him that magical treasure and tells him to stay alive no matter what. Meanwhile, Ruri is running away from her master. She tries to attack, but he easily deflects it. He tells her to stop struggling and give up her spirit energy to him. Just then, Koji arrives and hits the master with his powerful punch. Triggered, he unleashes his bloody palm technique, which Muzi and Ruri try to block using their spirit energies, but they are easily defeated. They then decide to attack together to break the old man's barrier, which still proves to be futile. The master hurls his power at them, calling them insignificant. Seeing that they don't stand a chance, Koji uses his dragon blood dagger and pierces the man. The master chokes Koji for injuring him, but the boy retaliates by using his cloning technique and attacking with his dagger once more. Muzi looks at Koji and recalls the conversation they had earlier about his technique. The boy shared that even though he could only make 2 body clones, he could easily transfer his soul between them, which could help him avoid fatal injuries. Triggered by his advances, the master unleashes his fiend art, causing their spirit energies and blood to be sucked. As they are about to be defeated, Koji calls forth Ling to defend them. The powerful spirit orders the old man to leave, or she'll kill him, and creates a formidable barrier. The man studies her cultivation base and can't determine the source of it. He suspects she's powerful, but her strength is currently limited. Koji tells Muzi and Ruri to escape as he acts as bait for their enemy, Ling. However, Muzi refuses to leave, saying they should just die together. Ruri suggests they think of a new strategy while her master is trapped outside the barrier. The man repeatedly hurls spirit attacks towards the barrier and deduces that Ling must be a weapon spirit because of her cultivation base. That's why she can't attack. Ruri suggests they leave for safety while Ling can still stop her master. Muzi agrees, thinking they can make another plan. Koji instructs Ling to distract the man for a while and come back to him after they escape. The spirit agrees, but the master refuses to let them go. Later, Ling is able to go back to Koji, but he almost runs out of spirit energy. With this, they conclude that their enemy must have used lots of energy as well, and he won't notice the trap they've set. Eventually, the master catches up to them and charges toward his disciple. Ruri uses her power to activate the spell they have placed on him to trap him. As the enemy struggles, Muzi and Koji attack at the same time, followed by Ruri. However, the master still overpowers them and laughs at the foolishness of his disciple. He reveals that the weaknesses of his fiend art that he recorded in his book are all fake and can't be used against him. It was his trap for her to test her loyalty, and the Yang Flame Array, which they used to attack him instead, made him stronger. He then unleashes his boosted power as he swears to eliminate all of them to reach the late stage of core formation. Knowing that they can't win against him, the trio tries to escape, but he goes after them. So Koji summons Ling again to protect them. In his last attempt to stop his food from leaving, he telepathically tells Ruri the truth about the slaughtering of her village. 20 years ago, to get a snake spirit's core, he tracked it to a village known as Shidi. However, he didn't expect to also witness the young Ruri having powerful energy inside her and a body that can self-cultivate. Determined to get her, he disguised himself as a traveling fortune teller, which is revered by everyone, but she refused him. So he massacred her whole village, disguised herself as the snake spirit, and used magical grass, which can make spirits go crazy, so it would look like the real snake spirit lost herself. Ruri then asked for help from him to slay her snake friend. In the end, the master successfully made her his disciple and got the core of the snake spirit. At present, Ruri cries and breaks down upon hearing the truth. Enraged, she releases her power to take revenge for her dead friend and attack her master. Koji comes to her rescue and is able to stab the man with his dagger using controlling art. Triggered, he declares that he will show Koji what true controlling art is. Meanwhile, Joe is on his private plane and enjoying a glass of wine. Suddenly, the plane starts shaking, and the pilot announces that it will crash in 2 minutes and goes out of the plane with a parachute. The butler finds a spare parachute to use, and they both jump out of the plane. Just then, Joe catches a glimpse of Muzi flying and lands on top of the plane. She then summons her power, Heaven's Punishment, and controls the plane to smash right into the master. Finally, she can use her Dark Sky ability after losing it to Koji. As the plane continuously glides down, the master contemplates that he's lucky that the girl is just in her early stages of cultivation, or else he has to escape. He then resolves to absorb her power, deeming that it's enough for him to level up. The plane finally crashes into the man, who then uses his power to block the impact. Amidst the blazing battlefield, Muzi continues to fight him, releasing multiple lightning attacks. However, the master catches one of them and hurls it back to her, sending her away. Koji catches her in time and activates the treasure he is wearing. He asks Muzi to lend her power to him one more time, and he charges toward the man. Meanwhile, someone attacks the master from behind. Wanting to end the fight, the master unlocks his true power and uses his most powerful attack, blood absorption. He then rapidly absorbs their power, making Koji recall Ling as she is being affected by it. He uses his dagger against the man, but the master uses his controlling art to injure him with it. Koji notices that his blood is corroding because of the red dragon's blood. As retaliation for losing his arm, he targets Muzi and grabs her, snapping her neck. Furious, Koji charges toward him, but he gets overpowered. Determined to win, he transforms and feeds his blood to the master, which is the soul of the dragon, which stops the blood absorption as it corrodes the man's blood. He then uses his controlling art and hurls boulders of rock at Koji, who now easily negates his attacks. Koji then retaliates and stabs him using his dagger, causing the master to burn in his own power and die. Looking at the unresponsive Muzi, he calls forth the elder spirit that has been watching their fight and begs it to save the girl, stating that if she dies, everything will be pointless. The elder spirit asks what it can gain in exchange for helping him. He then offers his spirit energy to it. However, the elder can't easily accept it, as it lives in a different space, and asks him to deliver it in 3 years. Koji asks for the name of the place, but the elder spirit refuses to answer, as it is restricted by the highest rule, telling him that he has to find the answers himself. He then swears to find the place in time, and vows to save Muzi. Meanwhile, Joe and his butler are both safe, but are in the middle of a wrecked plane. In order to go home safe, the butler carries him on his back, but they stumble upon a tree. Meanwhile, Muzi is leading a blindfolded Koji inside the forest, and they are bound together by a red string. After reaching a clearing, she tells him to remove his blindfold, revealing a vast flower field. She shares that she and her mother used to go there for picnics, and taught her how to find a good husband, teasing Koji that she knows 1,000 ways to satisfy him, which already satisfies Koji. He then promises to never let her experience something terrible, and promises that she'll never be alone again, so she won't have to force herself to do anything she doesn't want to do. However, she mentions that there is something she must do, leans into Koji, and kisses him.